Video 11. Does authenticity make success in academia difficult? That is the main question that I want to explore with you today. There are 3 things I'm discussing today: that, a film, and therapy. I just came from seeing the film A Real Pain, directed by Jesse Eisenberg. This is his second feature as a director. I did not plan on making a vlog tonight, but I just saw this film and I felt compelled to discuss this subject. The film is about cousins named David and Benji who travel to Poland to honor their late grandmother, and they visit this Holocaust tour. Just a film that really made me think about authenticity, and then about the PhD in authenticity. David is very tightly wound. Benji is the opposite, just so free-spirited. I just read this interview with Deadline with Jesse Eisenberg. I like what the interviewer brought up. He wrote here, "The film A Real Pain invites the question between these 2 characters. Is it better to live empathetically like Benji, or confined to societal ideals like David?" For me personally, I felt like, I see myself in both of these characters. I feel like Benji is like who I am inside, and David is like who I may present as in what I'm expected to be like. In a way, masking. There's an academic tour guide in the film, and he's British, played by Will Sharp, who was in The White Lotus. I did not know he was British. That was a perfect representation of a lot of academics you'll meet. They're like, we are very structured and very intelligent, and we know what we're discussing, but are we kind of missing what makes it personal for us? Or what do we bring to it that's different? I came across this wonderful article written by Dr. Jessica Black, and she talks about this question: why authenticity may make success in academia difficult. It made me ask the question, are academics afraid to be authentic? Do they feel confined to what the expectations of what a academic is? An academic. I'm currently planning a conference, and there was a suggestion that I made to someone about doing improv, like inviting academics to do improv. This person just did not like that idea because it felt so out of their comfort zone. It was kind of like, well, that's the point. Academics are always so in their head. They're always a structure to follow. We need to go free. At the same time, I'm not trying to put this person on blast. I completely understand the fear that comes with not knowing, with doing improv, with just being thrown out there with yourself and nothing to depend upon. No matter what you do, I think everyone benefits from improv. It's such a good experience. Anyway, let's get to Dr. Jessica Black's blog. Here are the reasons why authenticity in academia may be difficult, according to her. 1, she writes, to be a good academic, you have to be aware of your biases and you have to combat them. But good science demands impartiality and the effort to introduce as little bias into research design as possible. 2, you might not be able to study what the authentic you wants to study. Starting in grad school, you will need to carry out research that is in line with your supervisor's area of expertise. However, your focus may change, or you may become passionate about entirely new subject. Number 3, when it comes to getting a job, you probably won't be able to live where the authentic you wants to live. If you'd rather live in California, other states, other country, etc., etc. 4, you most definitely have to respect diversity in all forms, political, social, psychologists. Hopefully you already do, but you might find yourself being more tolerant than you would like. Classrooms can put you to the test. 5, we won't touch on issues of cultural appropriation, trigger warnings, and hypersensitivity. She goes into the very personal. 1, she mentioned that when she was doing interviews, she was told she should dye her hair. Ageism is a thing. They might take gray hair as a sign of less flexibility and willingness to adapt to their department, which is bananas. 2, we won't talk about business suits and lipstick. Thankfully, academia is somewhat flexible when it comes to clothing, and lipstick is traditional gender roles. 3, then there's ambition. She finds she doesn't have enough of it. She'd love to do research, and she's published a lot in a short time, but she doesn't feel competitive. She goes into also like imposter syndrome and personal authenticity. Like, if you are an academic and you don't want to stay in academia, what does that say? What if you're a creative writer and it's not like you want to stay in academia? You'd rather go and publish books, As far as the issue of like physical representation of what an academic is, I feel like that's a big thing, because most of the time you'll find a lot of us to be very conservative. Not all the time, but the majority will be like wearing suits, your typical academic look that you imagine. I find it so wonderful when I see a PhD student or an academic kind of like bring their own flair, very unapologetically dress themselves. There's someone I know that's always wearing sunflower patterns and like rainbow makeup. And I think it's so wonderful that we have different representations of who academics are, because we're so diverse in ourselves and how we dress and present. There has been several conversations I've had with academics where I'd be like, well, can't we do this? Or can't they do that? And then someone will say, technically no, because of the big wigs up the top of the academic industry. There's a very rigid form, and there's people who are trying to change it, from my knowledge, but that's something I'm not very familiar with at this early stage of my career, PhD student career. I'm going to transition into therapy now. I very much love therapy. It's so weird that at my therapy appointment today, we happened to be talking about this subject, and then I went and saw A Real Pain, not knowing what it was really about. That is a subject in itself where we were discussing authenticity and self-talk. This idea of like external validation and how that's so harmful. If we're always thinking about like, oh, I have to act a certain way. Not to call out the British. I'm here in the UK, so y'all are surrounding me. I notice it's a very British thing to apologize for everything, even when it's not your fault or even when it's not appropriate to. Sometimes it's passive aggressive too. That's my least favorite thing. As an American, we're so used to like being upfront. Why can't we just be ourselves? If we're mad, we're mad. If we don't like a person, we don't like a person. We don't have to apologize for that. We don't have to apologize for how we feel. I have to repeat that. We don't have to apologize for how we feel. If you're a people pleaser, you have a voice in your head that's like, oh, I'm supposed to act a certain way. But then at the end of the day, you are hurting yourself. You have to protect your peace. Yes, you have to protect your peace. That's so real. That's so important. I guess that's the whole message of this vlog. Protect your peace by being authentic. And watching A Real Pain had me thinking about authenticity. That's probably why my food tasted better than I thought it would. Because I was sitting there eating a Five Guys grilled cheese with lettuce, tomato, and onion, mozzarella sticks, veggie chicken nuggets, and a canister of Nutella biscuits. Oh my God. Nutella biscuits, do not get them because they're one of the most addictive snacks I've ever had in my entire life. If you try it, get the one that's only 3 in a pack, because if you get like the huge bag, you're gonna eat all of them, I swear. That film with that food and that mood had me living in a pure moment of joy for an hour and a half or 2 hours, however long the film was. I do want to ask you, do you feel like authenticity in academia is impossible? Does being authentic in academia make success challenging? I'm curious. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And if you're not subscribed, please do. If you have any questions about the PhD, etc., as always, leave them in the comments and I will try and get to it in the vlog. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, afternoon, or night, and I'll see you in the next video. So thanks.